lovely good morning and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Camnet Tvbreakfast show, governance and policy as well as politics, with me, Patrick Soko. Later on, I'll be joined by my co-host, Shalom Kalimbula, and together we have a lovely program lined up for you. Just stick around to ensure that you do not miss anything. We have quite a number of interviews on the program today, and we'll start with our very first segment that we call the Health Corner, where, as usual, the Medical Women Association of Zambia informs us about various issues pertaining to our health. Let's get started with that segment. We'll be back on the other side. Keep it on Camnet.
Good morning. Welcome to the breakfast show, in particular the health segment, which is proudly and happily brought to you by the Medical Women Association of Zambia. I'm Dr. Chelo Mwanza, a pediatrician. Today, we're going to look at nutrition, feeding habits, and the varieties of food that we can give to these children to enhance their proper growth. So this week, we can do a recap. So this week, we're looking at the importance of the under 5 clinic visits, and also there are various components and activities that actually do take place when we take our children there. So far, we looked at baby and parent information, and we also looked at growth monitoring in terms of their weight, their height, and brain development. We also looked at what we can do, what toys we can give to these children to help stimulate their brain to grow. And so today we're going to focus on nutrition. Basically, nutrition is what kind of food we give these children for the optimum growth that we desire to see in every child. Every growing child needs the right amount of food at the right time for them to grow as they're supposed to. So when a child is born, we expect that this child is exclusively fed on milk. It could be breast milk or it could be formula milk, depending on the parent's desire. Breast milk is the best milk for every child to grow adequately. Now, for the first 6 months, we expect that this child will be on breast milk alone. Well, not restricted to breast milk, but milk. It could be breast milk or formula milk. Children below the age of 6 months should not be fed on animal milk. So this is the milk that we buy from stores or shops. It could be cowbell, it could be needle, it could be all these varieties of milk. So this milk is not supposed to be given to the children because it will not enhance the growth that we want for them to have. So at about 6 months, you can start introducing other feeds to this child. So other feeds could be porridge, it could be mashed potato, it could be shima, even as this child starts to tolerate solid foods. Now, I should mention that there is no particular kind of food that is best to introduce when you start introducing foods to these children. Others say you need to introduce fruits before vegetables, and so on and so forth. It all depends on the baby's preference. What we need for you to learn is when you start introducing these foods, they should be balanced. Okay, so they should contain energy-giving foods. Those are the food that contain sugars, let's say mealie meal, rice, and so on and so forth. You also need to combine to the energy-giving foods the bodybuilding foods. Those are what we call proteins. So it can be beef, it can be sour, it can be chicken, it can be carpenter, it can be beans, it can be soya, whatever you are able to afford. You can also give them protective foods. So these are vegetables, fruits, And someone may ask, how then do you give, vegetables to this child that can barely, chew? It's not a problem. You can pound these various components of foods and add them to the porridge. You can pound the vegetables, you can pound the meat. In an event that you have a blender, it might as well work for you. So you may need to blend these various components of food and add them to the porridge. Even as your child starts to tolerate shima, you can give them all these other nutrients even through shima. So at the under 5, when you come for the visits, we have this card. So this, it shows clearly what kind of feeding we need to give this child. So you can see that from 0 to 6 months, this child should be exclusively fed on milk, like I have said. I need mention that if a parent opts to give a particular child formula milk, there's no one best formula to give a child, but it depends on which one the child tolerates. The brands could be different, but at the end of the day is what your child tolerates. And even as a family, as you decide that you will not breastfeed your child, you want to give them formula milk, you should be in a position that you can afford it. You have the know-how to make the milk. You have the adequate bottles. You have good water supply. You have the means of heating your water. And also that you can sustain. Because as a child grows, their demand for the formula milk will increase. So you should be, as a family, in a position that you are going to afford to buy the much needed milk. Sometimes what we do see is a family might opt to give this child formula milk, but then they make the milk so light that this child does not get the adequate nutrients, and the child ends up losing weight and not growing as they are supposed to. So then, if you come back to this chart, so after 6 months, when you introduce other feeds, it means that your child can breastfeed and have 3 other supplements of food. It could be in the morning, in the afternoon, and evening. So those are 3 extra plates of whatever you can afford, and mostly it's porridge. Then, after about 1 year, the demands for your child increase. So you continue breastfeeding them. They continue with 3 main meals and 2 snacks. Okay? So you can breastfeed your child up to the age of 2, and if you still desire, you can still continue thereon until when you feel you can stop breastfeeding. But it's always important that you breastfeed your child up to the age of 2. So when we move on to the age of 2 to 3 years, they still need to take their 3 main meals and 2 snacks. So it could be they get their breakfast, and then in between around 10 you give them something extra. It could be a snack. They get their lunch, and again at about 16 or so they get a snack, and they can have their dinner as well. So that's 2 to 3 years. It's the same between 3 to 5 years. Okay? So now I just want us to focus on the foods that we can give. We don't really need to look for exotic foods that we cannot afford. It's the basic food that we have in our homes. Mealie meal, cassava, rice, chicken, fish, carpenter, beans, soya, the various vegetables. It could be rape, it could be calembla, the fruits that we have around, the mangoes, the guavas, the oranges. And so for children that can't really take these foods as raw as they can be, you can pound them for them, you can blend them, you can squeeze the juice out of a lemon and give it to your child to drink. So let's also not forget to give them adequate amounts of water. After 6 months, you can always give your child some water to take after each feed. And so this is what we had for you on the nutrition segment. Remember, nutrition, good nutrition will enable your child to develop as they are supposed to. It will lead to proper weight gain, height gain, and brain development. Thank you so much for joining us. See you tomorrow, even as we look at vaccinations. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. That was Dr. Chelo Mwanza explaining nutrition, especially pertaining to our children. Quite an elaborate perspective there. It is important that we take our children for under 5 so that they can be assessed on various issues, and including nutrition, and the professionals will be in a position to actually advise on what sort of food you need to give to your child. As you already know, Zambia has been affected by issues pertaining to child stunting and child wasting, among other issues that are affecting children pertaining to nutrition. These are cases that we continue to grapple with. We understand that some time ago, stunting levels amongst children were around 40 to 45%, but through government interventions in partnership with cooperating partners in the civil society movement, we have been able to make progress in terms of addressing stuntedness, and we are standing at 30 to 35% around there. All the same, the figures are too high. We have to make sure that we take a proactive approach, ensuring that our children are well nourished. And how do we do that? Sometimes we don't need to do much, or you can actually depend on the traditional foods that can be accessed easily within our means, and that they are not even expensive at all. And talking about things like groundnuts. So these are things we need to make sure that we always try to give our children, to ensure that they grow up healthy. If we do not do the best in terms of ensuring that children have good nutrition, the challenges that come include malnutrition. Then we have obesity, which others say overnutrition. We also have other things like stuntedness, like I earlier explained, and also child wasting. So we have to just make sure that we as guardians, we take care of the health of our children, and that is what Dr. Chelo was explaining pertaining to us, ensuring that we make sure we understand how our children are weighing, especially when you take them for weighing at the health institution, because that's when you understand their weight and everything. You will be able to tell if they are making progress or not. That's that's about it on the health corner. And just now we have to get to understand how our kwacha is performing against other major convertibles in terms of the money market. Let's just see how the kwacha is buying at 15 kwacha 93 ngwe. That's against $1, and selling at 16 kwacha 25 ngwe. Against the euro, the kwacha is buying at 15 kwacha 98 ngwe, and selling at 16 kwacha 30 ngwe. And the South African rand is buying at 88 ngwe and selling at 90 ngwe. And the Greater British Pound is buying at 18 kwacha 45 ngwe and selling at 18 kwacha 82 ngwe. Those are your money market, and we have seen that quite the kwacha has been losing a bit of grip there, because we are seeing that even the buying aspect is running towards getting into the 16 band, and we just hope that it won't escalate further, so that Zambians can continue to benefit on a strong currency, the benefits that come with it. Quite an interesting aspect on the kwacha, but we are also eagerly waiting to see what the Energy Regulation Board, ERB, will prescribe when it comes to adjusting the fuel pump price come this month end, because we have seen that the kwacha has depreciated by a little bit of margin, but not very significant, and hence we also anticipate that the increase that probably may be made by the Energy Regulation Board will not be very significant. But whatever the case, an increase is an increase, and it has consequences, and we just hope for the best in as far as when it comes to the aspect of fuel is concerned. As you know, fuel is the engine of the economy, and we have to just make sure that it is well managed to ensure that we do not affect various sectors of the economy. And just now we got to look at our another segment where we continuously zooming stories that make headlines in the news. And talking about stories that made headlines in the news, we'll look at a story first of all that was where the Minister for Central Province was reacting to a story where some UPND youths protested over issues pertaining to ZRA in terms of taxes. So the story reads, the government has noted with concern the protest by small-scale miners in Kawe Tuesday. Central Province Minister Credo Nanjua says the protest by the miners demanding a waiver from the Zambia Revenue Authority on behalf of Chinese firms are uninformed. He explained that the main parties involved being the Ministry of Mines and Mineral Development and the Zambia Revenue Authority have for the past 3 months been working on the issue at hand. So let's get to listen to that story, and we'll be back on the other side.
Small-scale farmers operating at the Black Mountain in Kawe Tuesday protested on behalf of a Chinese company against what they termed as unfair tax ban from the authorities at the Zambia Revenue Authority, orchestrated by the provincial leadership both at government and party level. The small-scale miners, whose language and courage is that of a political cadre from the ruling party, demanded that their plight be resolved before things get out of hand. The miners asked government for a waiver on behalf of the Chinese mining company, the main buyer of the concentrates.
So please,
But Central Province Minister Credo Nanjua has clarified the matter, stating that government through the Ministry of Mines and Minerals Development and the Zambia Revenue Authority are working to ensure that the situation is resolved. He explains that laws have to be followed regardless of who is involved, hoping that the protesters are not being paid to create a wrong narrative.
When they come, they should understand the industry that they are engaging in and be conversant with the tax laws. So this is the challenge that they have. They have been to the Ministry of Mines. These materials have been taken to laboratories for testing, and according to themselves, the directors that I met, they told me ZRA is right, but the challenge that they have is that once those materials exports are declared as concentrates, they will make no profits. That is their worry. So there's no one who is fixing anyone here. It is government and the investor, and then every investor is obliged to comply with the law. So I'll just urge our colleagues, our party cadres, if they are our party cadres, to know that there are rules and laws that govern every industry. Government has to collect the right tax through Zambia Revenue Authority. So accusations and counter-accusations of officials or government officials is not the right way to do.
Mr. Nanjua, who is also Momba's Central Member of Parliament, has meanwhile cautioned the small-scale miners who are protesting to be compliant with tax remittance.
We are urging them to be law-abiding citizens, to understand as cadres how government operates. It's not everything that because a company is domiciled in the province, then everything is done at the provincial level. No. This is a matter which has been discussed by the parent ministry, the Ministry of Mines and ZRA. ZRA is a department, it's an agency of the Ministry of Finance. So it's not provincial administration. We are urging them to be law-abiding citizens. Companies have been engaging government. They have been having high-level discussions with the Ministry of Mines and the Zambia Revenue Authority. That's how they have even gone as far as having those products tested to independent laboratories. So the engagement actually is above the provincial level, it is at that level. So the Ministry of Mines, the Ministry of Finance, and ZARA itself, they are all aware of this matter.
Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Well, there you have it. That's a story from Kawe there, where the Central Province Minister Cledon Njua was actually explaining issues pertaining to the matter at hand, where some small-scale miners feel the ZRA, the Zambia Revenue Authority, and the Ministry of Mines are trying to disadvantage them. But the minister was clarifying quite a number of issues there. He mentioned that the issue is not it's about declaring the right minerals to ensure that the tax authority also does not make losses, and then they also equally get their share based on what is authentic, and that this process has been ongoing for 3 months, and but they have been engaging, and they suspected that these people who are claiming to be United Party for National Development youths could be used by some political elements, or rather not political elements, but rather some investors who have the interest to safeguard. But however, the minister said the government is the government of laws, and it will not tolerate any lawlessness. And even when it comes to tax matters, there is no sacred cow. They have to make sure that people comply to tax in terms of paying their right taxes, so that the Zambia Revenue Authority can equally have its share to be able to inject resources for national development. So that's quite an interesting story from Kawe there. We brought the first edition on Tuesday, and the minister was actually reacting to the issues that were being brought on the table by that group of young people from Kawe Central Province. And I just hope that they will manage to just get through this issue. We understand that sometimes paying taxes could be seen to be unfair, but however, as a country, we have to make sure that we respect the rules of our country and just do the right thing by paying the right taxes to ensure that development is taken to all parts of the country. And just now, let me also zoom in another interesting story. And remember, by the way, you can equally communicate with us via that number on your screen in case you want to join the conversation or you want to contribute to the stories that we are zooming in. That's before we engage our first guest for the day. We will be discussing issues pertaining to the United Nations, and let me just zoom in this story where the Economic Front Party President Winter Kawimba has described the United Party for National Development, UPND, as a fraudulent administration that champions the interests of foreigners. Mr. Kawimba believes that the UPND is acting contrary to what it promised the people of Zambia, as he called for unity of purpose among political parties in order to absolve its alleged oppression. Rather, he made the remarks during the unveiling of the former Democratic Party DP President Hari Kalava's new political party called Citizens First Party, CF. Let's zoom in that story.
3 months ago, Hari Kalaba abandoned the Democratic Party after serving as its president and presidential candidate for the August 12, 2021 general election, and this was after protracted court cases and winding internal leadership wrangles. Mr. Kalaba announced that he was going to form his own political party, and fast forward to Wednesday 26 October 2022, his aspiration came to pass as he unveiled the Citizens First Party, CF, but said it was not without obstacles. The launch was graced by other opposition political party leaders, among them New Heritage Party President Chishala Kateka, Patriots for Economic Progress Sean Tembo, Economic and Equity Party leader Chirifke Tayari, and Savoy Imbwela of the National Democratic Congress. Mr. Kalaba called for unity of purpose among opposition political party leaders in order to withstand what he termed as oppression from the governing United Party for National Development, UPND.
While a few elements within the state machinery were busy trying to frustrate the cause of the Liberty Party, a new party was being birthed and it got its certificate on the 23rd of September, and that party is called Citizens First.
We need to work together as opposition political parties in order to forge a way ahead. I think that is the newness of what is coming on the forward. It's for me to talk to President Kateka and have lunch with Wakavimba. Talk to Madam Savoy, you are welcome. And that is the newness of things. And as you know, we've always believed in industrialization of our country.
Economic Front leader Winter Kavimba has charged that President Hakainde Hichilema and his administration are not keen to serve the interests of citizens but foreigners.
We've now come to realize that HH is the wrong man in that office. We've now come to realize that HH in that office is a fraud. Yes. We've now come to realize that we put a hypocrite in the State House. Yes. We've now come to realize that Zambia cannot move forward with HH in the State House. Yes. We've now come to realize that HH has come to serve the interest not of the Zambians but of the foreigners. We've now come to realize that as we count down to 2026, we should go back to the MMD slogan, HH Zwa.
Meanwhile, National Democratic Congress leader Savoy Imboela has alleged that Zambians are being led by an autocratic administration that allegedly detests criticism.
Now we are being led by a very autocratic government. Yeah. You have no idea the kind of government we have right now. Some of us that know them well, no wonder we are talking, you know. Some of you are even saying, no, it's too early, don't talk too much, give them time. This truth has been putted out of Britain as a British, what is this, Prime Minister. Just after 44 days, are you getting the point? Because in some of these jobs, you have to hit the ground running. 44 days, somebody had to leave the prime ministership. But in Zambia, 6 months later, 1 year later, give them time. What time are we giving them? Are you getting the point? When they had a manifesto before they formed government, when they were promising you things before they formed government.
The number of political parties in Zambia continues to increase, but what will the CF bring on the political landscape? For now, we can only wait and see. Patrick Soko, Camnet News.
Many Zambians have been left shattered, devastated and broken after some named investors alleged to be of Chinese origin swindled them of their hard-earned cash in some online business called Star Shop, Shopping Mall and Extra Shop, which the scammers have continued to use to swindle more people. The victims who visited the offices of Shopping Mall Tuesday found the offices closed, and today Wednesday they decided to report the matter at the Central Police in Lusaka. However, those spoken to say they are disappointed that there is no proper system in Zambia that investigates the type of businesses that express interest in investing in the country, thereby leading to some investors taking advantage of people who are looking for business opportunities and swindle them of the little monies they have sweated for.
Complicated. So government.
How did they plant those billboards? How is it easy for someone just to go and plant a billboard? We believed them as because of what we saw and we lost. They have scammed us. So we really want help. Let the police help us. The Chinese embassy, the foreign affairs, whatever people, let them come in. Let them help us.
So for once, we need to stand up as Zambians and fight this, because they can't just keep on walking in the country. They do anything they feel like they do and they get away with it. And so far as we speak right now, they are still communicating with people.
Billboards valevika valikwetama offices, they were advertising, but taparefe wachitire filifyonse mamona. So twachira for kulomba kuli government kuti ingire popa eri ashi venge abantu abali bamima day one drama.
And police deputy spokesperson Danny Mwale says the police have instituted investigations into the alleged case of theft, which was reported by 2 employees of a company called Shopping Mall, whose owner is alleged to have left the country on October 19, 2022.
In Lusaka, have instituted investigations in the alleged case of theft, which was reported by 2 employees of a company called Shopping Mall Limited. The report was made on October 25, 2022 by the named employees after they suspected fraud. Preliminary investigations revealed that the said company was incorporated on July 28, 2022 and was duly registered with all relevant authorities. A check by police officers at Shopping Mall Company Limited offices located at Arcade Shopping Mall in Lusaka revealed that the offices were deserted, and further investigations indicate that the suspected owners left the country on October 19, 2022.
For now, those affected are hopeful that the government will help in tracking down the scammers and have even part of their monies retained. Prudence Chota reporting for Camnet TV News.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
There you have it, quite interesting stories. We were zooming in there, and we see that the story of Shopping Mall rather has continued to make the headlines in that people were swindled of their hard-earned money. And when you're investing, always be conscious, because they say if it's too good to be true, then it is not true at all. So you have to make sure that you take proactive measures, just do due diligence to avoid being swindled, like we have seen in many other aspects. And just now in the studio, I've been joined by our first guest coming from the United Nations, and it is Miss Penelope Campbell, UNICEF representative and chair of the United Nations Communications Group. Welcome to the program, Madam.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here and to be with the audience here today.
Thank you very much. We are glad that you honored our invitation, and we hope to have a fruitful discussion.
Yes, I hope so.
I hope so too.
Yeah, interesting. So to just get started, so that we get before we get into the details, first of all, we want to understand, first of all, what you do, especially in the communications unit of the UN. What is this entity responsible over?
Well, the UN Communications Group comprises communications staff from 22 agencies, which are mostly resident in Zambia. And we are part of the United Nations system in Zambia. And really what we're about is promoting awareness about the work that we're doing in Zambia, supporting government priorities, and really trying to also inspire people to action. You know?
I've seen that your work as really like UNICEF representative and chair of the communications group. Why this specific focus for UNICEF? UN, I'm meant to understand, has a lot of agencies under it. 22. But why UNICEF? Yes.
So UNICEF, I mean, I was just nominated and kindly accepted to be chair of the UN Communications Group. So I work with a wonderful, vibrant group of communication staff amongst all the different agencies, so tapping into all the different resources available to really just help kind of communicate as one around key issues.
Okay. Interesting. And first of all, before we get into what I also have on my paper, but what is the main thrust, especially of the UN in Zambia? What do you really focus on? Because We may take it for granted that we just say, see, the UN, the
Yeah.
UN. But what does the UN does in Zambia?
We do a wide range of issues, and we're actually just coming to the end of a 5-year partnership framework that we signed with the government 5 years ago, and we're coming to an end. And what's really exciting at this juncture is that we're starting a new cooperation framework in January 2023. And with the new National Development Plan, the 8th National Development Plan, we're really aligning all of our support as agencies around the 4 key priorities of the government's National Development Plan. So that's around, for example, human and social development, economic transformation, good governance and human rights, and environmental sustainability. So we're kind of around, we work together around, for example, under human and social development, around supporting the health system in Zambia, helping to improve the quality of education. We play an integral role around social protection, trying to alleviate poverty and address inequalities that exist in Zambia. So we have trying to foster inclusive economic development. So we're very much aligned around the government's national development priorities, and we all come together with our respective competencies, expertise, etc., to work to really provide technical and financial support to the government to achieve its goals.
Okay, so UN has been in existence for like 77 years, and you've got a lot of agencies, like you mentioned, 22. Are some of those agencies still relevant to Zambia? I'm also meant to understand that most of the countries that you work with or you work in are those that are developing, and Zambia is developing at a faster rate, at least according to politicians. I know you're not a politician, but are you still seeing the relevance of being in Zambia as the United Nations?
Very much so. So the UN was born, as you said, 77 years ago in 1945. So it was born out of the ashes of the Second World War. And 50-odd countries came together in 1945 to kind of really around peace, trying to foster peace, and to also make the world a better place for future generations. So that happened actually on October 24th in 1945. And so UN Day, as we call it, actually falls on the same day as your independence. Yeah.
Amazing.
And I would say we're very, very relevant today, 77 years later. I mean, I think we can see with the conflicts and crises in the world, for example, the Ukraine crisis, there are many other conflicts. Climate change is really wreaking havoc, causing floods and droughts, and we can see in the Horn of Africa, for example, a famine is kind of unfolding there. And so very much in Zambia, what we're trying to do is really work, the UN's role is to work with governments, individual governments, to help foster, really trying to make the world a better place for future generations around what we call the Sustainable Development Goals. So Zambia is one of over 190 member states, member of the UN, and even though these member states and these countries are, whether big or small, they're all a member of the United Nations, they all have one voice, and we're all working together towards these same global goals, which are still really very relevant today. So alleviating poverty, improving nutrition, improving health outcomes, education outcomes, environmental sustainability, and all of those issues are very, very relevant to Zambia today.
Interesting. And so yeah, like you explained part of it, but maybe how is the UN relevant in Zambia at the moment?
Well, I think, for example, education. We call it learning poverty. So that's when a child, for example, is really struggling with learning, for example, reading, writing, arithmetic, etc., which we define as foundational learning. Did you know in the whole of the world, only 1 in 3 children at age 10 can read a simple sentence at age 10? In the African continent, that's 1 in 10.
Wow.
In Zambia, it is around 1 in 3. So we're better than the African continent, but we've still got a long way to go. Every child needs to, be able to read a simple sentence at age 10. It's a foundational requirement for future learning, to learning curricula, and helping countries to achieve their human and social development. You know, education is a foundational competency that every child needs to have. So the UN family, for example, is really working and supporting the education sector in Zambia to really improve the quality of learning and to really improve those rates of learning. So that's one of the objectives of our cooperation framework for the next 5 years. But that's also an objective of the governments, isn't it? So we're really working together to make sure that every child, and that the disparities, for example, the urban and rural disparities, some children in in the rural locations fare worse because they have to travel longer distance to schools, etc. Or the quality of the school buildings and the teachers are just not, as good, for example, as in urban areas. So we're trying to work with the government to address these disparities, trying to also involve children with disabilities as well, to trying to make sure they're included in the education system as well in Zambia. So that's the kind of work, that's an example of the kind of work we do here in Zambia, and I would say that's very relevant.
How long have you been in Zambia though?
The UN?
Yes.
Since after independence.
So like almost 50, is it 58? 58?
Yes.
But then when you talk about the issues to do with inequalities, I think that's the right term, where the urban dwellers have a better life than those in the rural parts of the country. You've been here for like 58 years, and you've been advocating from day one to ensure that everyone has equal opportunities regardless of where they are. Are you seeing progress with the work that you're doing and Zambia improving towards achieving those things of equality?
I would say yes, there definitely is progress. For example, if you look at the health outcomes of the country, the maternal mortality, the child mortality rates, etc., definitely there is evidence of progress. They've reduced.
Okay.
There's still a way to go, for example, however. For example, in the area of under 5 child mortality, whilst under 5 child mortality has improved, for example, the rate of neonatal mortality, though it's improved, we've noticed in the last 5 to 10 years, it's remained stagnant. So though more and more women are delivering in hospitals, for example, and having their babies in hospitals, there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of improving the quality of that delivery so that the babies born survive and thrive. So there's always progress, but there's still, we always monitor the situation and see, okay, where are there gaps? What can we do to help the government, work with the government hand in hand, and civil society, including churches, communities, all forms of civil society groups. What can we do together to really improve and close those gaps?
Just a quick one, Patrick, before you come in. 22 agencies, do they all have a presence in Zambia?
Not all of them have a presence here, no. Some, for example, are based in the region and they support from the region with, for example, outposts or offices here, but most are here.
I'm going to pick on UNICEF again. It deals with children. Does it mean we have a lot of problems with children? We have a lot of issues with children, so you decide to say, okay, let's camp here. Yeah, there are quite a number, but I mean, it's just an example of this, like setting up an office here. Does this mean we have a lot of issues regarding children?
Well, Zambia is a very youthful population, isn't it? For example, I mean, we're waiting to see the full results of the recent census that was recently developed. And by the way, UNFPA, works hand in hand with the government, along with UNICEF and other agencies to support the census. But from the latest data from 2018, we know that we're estimating about 48% of Zambian population is actually aged below 15. So children, they're children. So definitely children are a big priority, and that's one of the reasons why UNICEF is here as part of the UN system, working together with other agencies and the government to really improve, and help children realize their rights.
Interesting. Now we get to the structure of the UN. How is it really structured, and how does Zambia fit in?
Well, as I said, Zambia is one of over 190 member states of the UN. So Zambia is a member of the United Nations family. So that's kind of how Zambia kind of fits in, and it has a voice, it has a vote at the various different organs of the UN. So yeah, so that's how it works. And currently, among the UN family, as I said, there are around 22 agencies. With the new cooperation framework, I think there are another 2 to 4 agencies joining. So again, you know, it's really nice that more and more agencies want to kind of work to help Zambia achieve its goals.
Brilliant stuff there. Let's just remind our viewers, in case you are just joining us, we are joined by Ms. Penelope Campbell from UNICEF. Is it United Nations? And UNICEF representative and chair of the UN Communications Group. And we are in conversation talking about the work that the United Nations is doing in this country. And if you are just joining us, you've missed quite a number, but you can still go back on our socials, that's Facebook and YouTube, and watch this broadcast so that at least you can be put on the know of what the United Nations is doing in this country. Quite a lot of work, quite a lot of partnerships that you create. We see you working with a lot of organizations and making sure that at least we achieve some of those sustainable development goals. Obviously, not all of them. We failed to do the Millennium Development Goals.
Yes, but just to catch you off guard, we cannot talk about the UN without talking about the Sustainable Development Goals.
I know.
I know it's an ambitious.
Those are ambitious targets.
Aspirations, but all the same, we have to continue trying. But so far, while working in Zambia, how would you assess in terms of us as a country working towards achieving those sustainable development goals? We can pick on the priority ones. Let's say goal number 1 on ending poverty. Goal number 2 on zero hunger. Let's say goal number 3 on health. There's also goal number 6 on ensuring inclusive access to water and sanitation for all. And that also affects our children because we see they are highly affected with issues pertaining to child stunting, child wasting, undernutrition, overnutrition, all those issues. So let's say, how would you assess, are we going to make progress with about 8 years to go before 2030?
Well, this is a decade of action, as you rightly say. I mean, that's what the Secretary General has really defined this decade as, because as you rightly say, we have less than a decade.
Yes.
We have only 7, 8 more years towards achieving the 2030. So we really have to all collectively put our foot on the pedal. In terms of, for example, nutrition, 1 in 3 children in Zambia are stunted. So as you say, that's a result of inadequate access to primary health care, inadequate access to safe water, and poverty, you know, inadequate access to nourishing food on the table. So these are, 1 in 3 is quite a high number, and this in turn will impact the development, the human capital development of the country, because if these children are stunted, they'll have a higher likelihood of morbidity, health illnesses. They will not be able to learn as well as other children who are not stunted in schools. So we're really working with the government in currently the UN family, WFP, FAO, UNICEF, WHO, working with the support of donors such as the EU, the UK government, Germany, etc., to really improve the quality of nutrition in the 17 districts in the country, 17 of 116 districts in the country, where stunting is at its highest. So we're working together to improve the quality of nutritious food through the agricultural means in those districts. I'm helping women in particular who are primary caregivers, often of these young children, to save, to also educate them to understand the need to ensure that children have the best possible food that they can, that they breastfeed their babies up until the age of 2, but in terms of the food that they introduce to young children, that it's nutritious and as diverse in their diets as possible. So we help families know, educate them and know how to do this and how to preserve foods which sometimes are not available in all the seasons of the year, how to preserve those nourishing foods to give to their children at times when those foods might not be as readily available. So these are the kinds of activities that we're doing, and we also work with the health facilities and health centre staff to really also increase their capacity to educate women and to make sure that we call nutrition screening, so we can pick up on children who are experiencing malnourishment early. The earlier you can pick them up, the earlier you can take action to turn that situation around. So that by age 5, those children are not stunted. So we're working with the government to do that. It's called the Scaling Up Nutrition Program. It's very much a joint UN effort. So that's kind of an example of one of the kind of activities that we're doing in Zambia. We're also working a lot in the area of social protection, which is about giving helping the government with its program, its social cash transfer program, to give it to households who are vulnerable, so disability-headed households, elderly-headed households, child-headed households, among others, to really try and help that program to be as optimal and efficient, as effective as possible.
I'm hoping that you'll be able to respond to this. African countries, like member states especially, they've been calling for reforms at the United Nations. How far are we with that, and how does that affect Zambia?
So as I said, I mean, in the last 5 years, for example, there have been 22 agencies in Zambia, and there's a risk that those agencies can operate in a very fragmented way, which obviously doesn't leverage the joint efforts and resources of those 22 agencies. So around, in response to calls from member states, including Zambia, they say, we're struggling to kind of have engagements with all these 22 agencies. You know, we also feel like we're being pulled, the governments feel like we're being pulled in many different directions. We really want the UN family to simplify its processes and kind of so that we can also work with the UN as one. So in response to that call, we initiated reforms. And for example, in Zambia, it means that we have a resident coordinator.
Yes.
Her name is Beatrice Rotali. You can hear more, you can read more about her on the UN Zambia website. But she is this most senior representative, and she's a unifying force of all of the agencies, and really providing a kind of a cooperation framework which all of us have consultatively developed with government, so that we are all aligned. We're very clear on, okay, which UN agency is supporting the people pillar, which is about human and social development, which UN agencies are supporting the prosperity pillar, the planet pillar, which is about environment. So it's really about all of us aligned under a kind of a guiding plan, so that we're really clear on what we're doing and how we're working together and working jointly with the government. And we're trying to initiate more and more joint programs. And this really helps to simplify the processes with government and helps us to work in a much more kind of cohesive, simplified and more unified way. And that is much less burdensome to the government of Zambia.
Brilliant.
Interesting. As we wind up our conversation, how can an ordinary member of the public participate in the work of the United Nations?
Well, in many, many different ways. I mean, I always say, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can play a role in the SDG agenda, no matter what. Whether it be in your local community, you know, whether it's about helping a child go to school, whether it's about helping a family who's, you know, experiencing really difficult circumstances, we can all join hands and work together in a united way to really help alleviate that person's circumstances. And that's really what the UN family is about, really working with all sorts of groups to really try and alleviate and improve the outcomes for future generations.
As you conclude, what have you lined up for the celebration of the UN Day?
Well, because it fell on Independence Day.
Yes. Yes.
Take away from the celebration.
Yes. It was going to just be overshadowed, you know.
Exactly. So really what we're trying to do is do, for example, programs like this, appear on the radio, on TV, just making the public aware of what the UN is about. So that's one thing. And we're also reaching out to universities and higher level institutions, higher education institutions. So each head of agency is going and visiting those institutions, engaging with young people about the UN and inspiring them to action. And also this Saturday, at around 8 o'clock, we're going to be walking the whole UN family with families and friends. We're going to be walking, doing an awareness walk. We're going to walk for change.
Yes.
From UN House to East Park Mall. And there we will be organizing a job fair. So, for example, young people in particular who are interested in learning more about the UN and also about working for the UN can come and learn about that from our Human Resources Technical Working Group. They'll be there having a job fair. And we'll also be offering health checks to any Zambian who'd like to come along, who'd like to get an eyesight check or get some vaccination, COVID-19 vaccination, or just have a general wellness check. we'll be offering health checks so that they can also access and be referred if need be for further support. So yeah, we're doing that this Saturday at East Park Mall.
All right, great stuff. Thank you so much for gracing our screens. Definitely, we will be having you soon. Now that you've opened the doors, this is like the first time we're hosting the communications unit, not so?
No, this is the first time, yes.
Yes. He's been dragging his feet, eh? He's been dragging his feet. He actually thought we were going to bombard them with questions they wouldn't respond, but well enough, she has done a very good job. We're very happy to have you on set and having unleashed all this information to the public, and we surely hope they've learned one or two things. The day, when is that?
Saturday,
this Saturday.
Come and walk with us for change, and if you want any more information, visit the UN Zambia website, where you can learn more about what the UN does and how you can engage with the SDG agenda.
All right, just now let's zoom in one of the stories that we did yesterday as we zoom out our guest on set, where the Opposition Patriotic Front accused the governing United Party for National Development of resorting to violence in order to win the forthcoming council chairperson by-elections. Reacting to the incident Tuesday in Wednesday, where PAF cadres were allegedly attacked by UPND, Patriotic Front Media Director Antonio Mwanza is disappointed, accusing President Hakainde Hichilema of allowing such violent activities to continue. Let's look at the story. Thereafter, when we return, we continue the breakfast show.
Regardless of the age, he had to abandon the silence and cry, for the pain was too much, like in episodes in resemblance of the old days of the ugly political violence. Zambia will be hosting council chairperson elections in Mwense, Lusangazi and Mukushi districts on the 4th of November 2022. The campaign period has not been free from incidents of political violence, and Tuesday evening, suspected Patriotic Front members and passers-by were attacked by suspected United Party for National Development cadres. PF Mwense District Council Chairperson elections candidate Charles Mwerwa says the matter has been reported to the police as he called for violence-free campaigns. Meanwhile, Patriotic Front Media Director Antonio Mwanza has charged that the UPND is sensing defeat in the forthcoming elections and has opted to use violence to deter would-be voters.
And what they have done as a strategy is to unleash violence as a way of intimidating our members to go out to campaign and to vote. And we want to challenge President Hakainde Hichilema. Why is he quiet when this violence is being perpetuated by his own party? Why is the president quiet? If the president continues to remain quiet while his members continue to butcher our members, we will have no reason to doubt that actually this violence going on has actually been endorsed by President Hakainde Hichilema. If he's not the one endorsing this violence, if he's not the one perpetuating this violence, if he's not the one financing this violence, we challenge him to come out and condemn his members and to take action to make sure that his members stop butchering our people. If he doesn't do that, then we'll have no choice but to conclude that it's actually President Hichilema who himself is behind this violence.
Meanwhile, UPND Deputy National Youth Spokesperson Phineas Pumuro has accused the PF of provoking the UPND by removing its campaign posters, further urging them to desist from being crybabies.
Provocation from the PF. One of the PF MP who is sponsoring this terror in Mwense, even the truck that is being used, carrying these cadres who are removing posters, it is owned by the well-known PF cadre. We want to make it very clear. PF should not be crying babies. PF used to beat us. PF used to kill us. So they should not want to try to make a blame game here. UPND, we have gone into Mwense to do clean campaign, and we are continuing to do clean campaign. The violence that we are seeing in Mwense, it is clearly sponsored by the PF because they started by removing our campaign posters. And the people who are beating the PF cadres are not UPND members. They are merely marketeers who are saying no to this, and they are chasing away cadres who used to collect money from the same marketeers.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News.
There you have it. Quite an interesting story there, Madam Sharon Kalimbula.
When you call me Madam, I actually think you want to bribe me or you want something from me. I don't have. Are you sure?
Whatever
you want, I don't have.
I saw something in the bag.
Really? You know, just for the record to the viewers, when people at Camnet TV start calling me Madam, they want something. It won't work.
Interesting. So quite an interesting story, Madam Karimbula, on that on Wednesday.
Yes.
We've seen pockets of violence repeating themselves. We saw during the nominations, but again during this campaign period, we are seeing rival camps, being the UPND and the PF, attacking each other, and quite a funny sentiment there from Mr. Mwanza, as well as Mr. Pumuro is equally reacting.
Counter accusation.
Mr. Mwanza suggesting to say it is a gimmick that they want to disadvantage voters from actually exercising their right to vote by creating a violent atmosphere. The UPND on the other side is accusing the PF of orchestrating violence by provoking them, by defacing their campaign posters and removing them, and hence they are saying that it is not our member who beat them, it's just ordinary marketeers who don't want people to be collecting levies in markets and bus stations. How to would be that, and what interests someone?
What exactly?
It's quite funny, you know, if you come to think of it.
That's what you call counter accusations, Patrick, because this one is trying to defend themselves. We just hope that the police will ensure that they investigate this as soon as possible, and those that were perpetrating these violence acts are brought to book, because we cannot continue whereby by election or whatever, or whenever there's just an election, you know, sometimes you'd think let's do away with elections, but how anyway? Because elections are a source of serious confusion, Patrick.
But that's
serious confusion.
When I was with Judith Kavemba, the Democratic Party office bearer, that's one thing she categorically stated, that elections are a mode of dividing this country.
It's serious.
Because if you see Madam Mumbipiri and is it Shabichilekwa? I think they found themselves in that situation because of an election. Because most of the times, UPND cadres were arrested during campaigns of a by-election or an election. Arbitrary, Sharon.
Yeah.
And that is something we need to make sure that we avoid as a country. And she was also suggested that probably it's about time we do away with these by-elections, in that we should minimize the holding of these by-elections at all costs, because at the end of the day, you know, the ruling party wants to show, to say we are controlling, and people are happy with how we are governing the country. So they'll use the by-election as a test measure to say, if we win, it means that we still have the support of the people. While the opposition also want to say, if we beat them on this by-election, we'll demonstrate that people have lost confidence.
Exactly.
They have lost their popularity. People are not happy with the way they are governing. And it tends to create a tense atmosphere, and where we continue to see high levels of intolerance. And if we as a country, we always find ourselves in a situation where we continuously hold by-elections from the day elections are held up to the next election.
After the next general election.
So, at the end of the day, that money could be channeled towards
other needy sectors.
Yes, Sharon.
Exactly, Patrick. Well elaborated there, and very, very true indeed, that we are spending a lot of resources on by-elections and dividing the country. It's like we're funding division.
Yes,
at the end
we're
of the
funding
day.
division.
We're funding division
at
the end of the day.
And Kabushi elections have left
ended, you know.
Look at how
the voter apathy was just beyond. The division was just beyond.
3 wings of government have been put to test by these elections.
Put left, right, and center. I think even them, they don't even know where they stand. Literally, it just had to go on. So there's more that needs to be done to ensure that whenever there's an election, Patrick, we've talked about this on the show, we need reforms insofar as laws surrounding elections are concerned, so that if it's putting punitive measures, really serious punitive measures, where people who are found perpetuating violence are dealt with in such and such a manner, not whereby you take somebody to the police, you even know them, you've reported them, the police start dilly-dallying. At the end of the day, those people are set free without going to court, without seeing the issue reaching its logical conclusion. And you know what that does? When you don't receive justice, Patrick, I'm creating a monster in you. I always say this. I'm creating a monster in you such that you're at the end of the day, you're going to take the law into your own hands. But is this what we want as a people? I don't think so. And therefore, let us learn to be tolerant with one another, especially when it comes to politics. The fact that you belong to a different political party doesn't mean you are less of a human being. I am more of a human being. It shouldn't be like that. These are just divergent views. At the end of the day, we are one population. We are one people as human beings. We come from the human family. You know, that's what should matter. And we condemn that violence in Mwense in the strongest terms. We haven't seen a record of other violent activities in other areas, other wards where they are holding these by-elections. Patrick, there are 3 that are being held on the same day.
Lusangazi as well as Mkushi.
Lusangazi and Mkushi.
But for these 2,
but Mkushi also recorded some
during the nomination day.
Yes, yes.
Even in Lusangazi during the nomination day.
Wow.
So that's
that video that went viral was from Lusangazi?
It was Mkushi one.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. We hope that does not repeat itself. However, in case you are just joining us, you're watching The Breakfast Show. My name is Sharon Kalimbola and Patrick Soko, as usual, on Thursday, and we are discussing various issues with the main topic scrolling on your screens. Earlier we had the United Nations, Patrick, and we discussed a number of issues, and on Saturday she clearly mentioned that they're having a commemoration of the United Nations Day, which falls on the same day with Zambia's Independence Day, 24th October. How?
They should change the day. You end it.
No, we're not changing the day. Otherwise, in Zambia,
but anyway, no wonder I think in Zambia I know other countries did host.
They did host their annual events and stuff.
But for Zambia, it has to be pushed because probably even the event would be overshadowed.
Exactly,
exactly. Because Sharon is in the independence mood.
I mean, the independence attire. I mean, the greens, orange, red, and black. While the UN would want you to dress in their colors as well. But how many people would go that far? You know, there's just that patriotism that comes with you belonging to a country. For me, being Zambian, I would want to dress in those colors on that particular day. I wouldn't want to wear the white.
And these same colors, talking about colors, when we saw many people having Zambia's, the Zambian flag as green,
orange, red, and black.
Now, if you during the independence celebration, we saw people having the green as a dominant color. You know, green is
green being a dominant color.
Even on the flag,
so
people were saying, "PF should have been PF," and these people are more green. It's like PF. Why is the PF dominating? But that's how sometimes colors are associated with these political parties.
Equally, when you wear red,
if you wear red, you also
they'll say, this one.
So you saw even our vehicle, our colors are also red. Our corporate colors are red and white. So, but if our vehicle is branded red, many people were saying,
how come?
How come?
Especially last year, it was quite a tense period, but we managed to pull through without any injuries, without any fatalities, without anything related to that. Patrick, we managed to pull through, and we surely hope that going forward, we will continue to be understood that red is just our corporate color and not associated to Ichipani.
Madam, and bring us up to speed with the story where former Kwacha MP John Marangi was actually trying to clarify some issues that are pertaining to him withdrawing
goodwill.
Goodwill.
Goodwill. I think we have a goodwill gestures. Who does that? Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning, thank you. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Calling from Masinga.
All right, Mr. Lungu, please go ahead.
Yes, just wanted to comment on the issues of violence that are taking place.
Yes, go ahead.
In areas where by-elections are taking place. You know, I've gotten the two sides of the story from Antonio Manzan from the youth chairperson for European.
Yes.
Yes. We brought in the European so that the violence that used to be there should come to an end. And that is what they committed themselves to. Now, to hear the youth chairperson at some point saying, no, UPF used to beat us, in a way is saying, we are also beating them because they used to beat us. That is what we don't want. And there's no way you can say those who are beating the PF are just marketeers. It's only the marketeer who is a cadre who can beat someone. So in other words, that then is confirming that it is us, the European cadres, who are beating the PF. So that is not what we want. What we want is a peaceful nation, a peaceful country, peaceful by-election. Not where we start seeing such blood from both people. That is not what we voted for, please. Let them just understand that whatever PF used to do, let it go. It's not time to revenge or fight back. No. Then, Madam Kalima, I just want to take this time to also comment on what was aired on the issues concerning connection of Lungrans and the Chama to the national grid through Chipata. I would like also to make a request to the government. If they can extend the same connection to Mafinga, because we are in the same problem as Kutaza and the Chama.
Okay.
If our MPs here, let him go and fight for what his friends are voting for, because the MPs for Chama South and Chama North, together with the Madam from Lundan, have been complaining about power outages from the electricity which is imported from Malawi. That's why the government has responded. But our MP has never let him even contributing or saying anything on his friends or colleagues bring up this in parliament. Let him also go and fight and then connect to Lundan and Chama. Let the government also extend to Mafinga because we are having the same challenge. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much for calling us, and thank you for watching Camnet TV. Patrick there, very clear. Any comment on that?
Yeah, he was just mentioning quite important aspect pertaining to violence. He was just analyzing the comment made by Antonio Manza and a comment made by Pomoro. You know, Zambians are able to say, oh, what is this person saying? What is this person saying? Okay. I think the conclusion is that it's no wonder we do stories objectively, Sharon.
Yes, and this reminds me of a story that you did at one time where the Patriotic Front actually themselves said, it's like UPND, we're admiring the things we used to do.
Exactly.
You did that story.
Exactly, yes.
Because there's no way they can be referring to the negative things that we did and what led people to vote us out of office, and they say they used to do this. Okay, so what? We used to do that. Are you going to continue?
No, we don't want you to continue doing what we're doing. We are putting you out of government. But again, if we're saying doing the same things, then we're not making progress as a country.
No, we are not making progress.
For me, I think violence, regardless of who is involved, whether a marketeer or whatever, why should we resort to violence?
No,
you can't be injuring each other. You know?
For what for?
And the way that man cried, Sharon, you can tell that he was in pain.
Indeed. Just a reminder to you, the UPND, I think people put the PF choir because of that, and now you want to do them the Fimba Upoke. They will put you above the wire.
So I think okay, yeah, so it is important that we also avoid the issues of pertaining to arrogance.
It's not necessary.
Politics, whereby you say, you know, those days we used to say, if you Exactly.
Then
others are saying that Fimba
upoke.
You get a sense.
Fimba.
So people end up pokering on voting.
And then they'll put you back to wire.
Yeah.
However, Patrick, yesterday we carried a story where one of the Patriotic Front able members, Joe Malanje, who is former Kwacha member of parliament, who rubbished claims by some sections of society, claiming that he has started withdrawing all the developmental projects brought to Kwacha by his goodwill. Addressing the media Wednesday, Mr. Malanje noted that Kwacha constituency and its people are his family, wondering how he can start withdrawing what he gave the people of Kwacha. He says the people of Kwacha believe in homegrown developmental solutions, and him being part of the community makes him part of the solutions to the many problems needing to be solved. Mr. Malanje, who boasted of not being a poor man, says he will continue to support the people of Kwacha regardless of being unfairly treated by government. He has cited the Riverside Police Camp as one of the things he would grab if at all he thought of retrieving his goodwill gestures. And commenting on the elections in Kwacha and the Kabushi constituencies, Mr. Malanje said the people of Kwacha are wise and will do the needful at the right time. So, Patrick, there's been a story, actually not a story, but many narratives regarding this man.
I was so alarmed.
Immediately he lost the election was nullified. Ati Malanje uko poka ma basi, especially yama basi.
In the campaign period just now, it should be last week.
Yeah,
that's what we say is getting things.
Yes.
We're going to shops and markets and to just get things that are donated to the people. Yeah, something I was also equally surprised. I think should have been yourself who was telling me that said, you got a sense
with my shock at taunt. You know, things like that. So it's been going rounds on social media, but actually he thought it was too much and decided to address the nation through the media on Wednesday, and he just rubbished those claims. He said there are many things that he has done in that constituency. Regardless of being a member of parliament, he will continue to support the people and see to it that they receive those things that they need as a member of Kwacha constituency.
Let's zoom in that story.
The police are now busy going into churches to see what I donated. Where's the morality? Where's the morality in this society? Are you telling me that somebody can fail to buy a bus for a church which is costing 230,000 kwacha, 190, 150? And now police are being sent. If, like I said before, if I was to withdraw anything, I would start with the police, because I spent so much on their police camp. I would say, okay, let me remove my transformers. Why haven't I done that? But now they want to go into the community, creating fake stories. Oh, he has come to grab us. He has come to grab us. That will never happen. I'm telling the people of Kwacha, I'm their family member. I'm their family member. There's no one who withdraws what they do for their family. Our parents there, our sisters, our nephews, all what I've done for them in that community. But we care pakavende. Na chishupa no. We care pakavende. But Zambians are not stupid. Very soon they will pronounce. They will pronounce by action that we are not happy, just like they did in Kwacha. So please inform our people in the constituency and countrywide that the propaganda going around to discredit Joe Malanje, that he's been grabbing what he donated to the community, is total rubbish.
All right, so that is the former Kwacha member of parliament, Joseph Malanje. You know, one thing I always remember about him is his party member saying he's multilingual. He speaks a lot of languages, owing to the fact that he was former foreign affairs minister also. He would shine, actually, speaking different languages. He would speak the French of this world. He would speak that when he's meeting different people from different countries. So he was like that. But then again, the Great Talk thing just put him on the chopping board. We surely hope that maybe 2026 he will try out. Don't be shocked that I brought in the Great Talk.
Interesting. Your views. Those are your views.
According to the courts of law. Not my views. However, you are watching the breakfast show on Camnet TV Thursday edition, and you can call us on set live and talk to us. Give us your views on what is happening in your various localities. We want to hear your voice. We ran some of the stories that we were zooming in, and we want to get your comments on the stories. We did the story for Joseph Malanji. We also did the story for the shopping mall guys who were swindled. Actually, police, Patrick, have instituted investigations, and preliminary investigations reveal that the owners of that shopping mall, or is it Star Shop or something like that, have actually bolted. They are not even in the country. So one wonders how somebody would actually invest such huge sums of money in an online business that they do not fully understand. But we hope that sooner or later the culprits of this will be brought to book. The sad part is that Zambians were recruited to be part of this thing. Let's pick this call, Elijah. Help us. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Oh, Rev, it's been a long time. Good to hear from you.
Thank you so very much.
Please go ahead.
Yes, so what I just see is the story of the former president of Parliament, the issues related to the carbon and the issues of revenge and stuff like that. They want to investigate what the carbon the impressive relevance of the United Nations in Zambia. I think I'll speak generally on leadership.
Yes.
I think that what is going to be having the challenge at party level, individual level, at international level, or national level, leadership is without leadership. The underlying was the southwest urban leadership. I think that there's been so much of hypocrisy, and I think this regards the fact that we don't seem to walk the talk when it comes to, our table as leaders, at all these levels. It's an issue of not being sincere. It is like we want to say with an agenda. We want to be certain positions with an agenda. So the pronouncements we should be making are not really what we are practicing on the ground. It is like, the area to go around the part of the young man. I don't know whether it was that committee or something, but to be there sometimes, and again that, do what I said, but did not do what I did. And it was alleged that there was a sister that is there all the time to say, do what I said, and do not do what I said. Leadership is about it's not just about pronouncing, it's about, being able to actualize what you have pronounced.
Wow, we lost Levan
Manduli there, our reliable caller. But one thing I picked is he picked the story of violence, Patrick, and obviously, like many other callers, he is condemning, saying we should not continue to perpetuate issues to do with violence. I mean, we are one people, like we said, Patrick. It's unfortunate that people feel that they can continue on that wrong path, simply because they are in power. That's why we need to be very careful with the usage of words, Patrick. He may not have meant what he said, but people have picked it. And they actually think they are thriving on what the previous administration used to do. And this is what they keep on doing. You know, some reference is not necessary, Patrick. Reference in necessary. Let's move on. Say, no, you Patrick Palonantana. You know, all the time I want to do something for you, I say, Patrick Unantana, and then I give you. You know, at the end of the day, you will think, I want to revenge. I'm just doing what I'm doing because I have no choice, you know? It's like forcing me. So once I move on from what you did to me, you know, you Unantana or something, I need to move on. I shouldn't always refer to that whenever we do something. I do something wrong, and then you reprimand me. You tell me, okay, Sharon, this is what is happening.
Now,
can people move on?
Now we continue to remind ourselves of the old agri days.
Yes.
And want to relive them.
We're living in the past.
Yeah. So
we're like captive. We're put in the captive, you know, with the past. We don't want that. Yes.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation.
Television, not just another channel.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
Kumatololo mwine emo
Yellow Dove, Prince of Kabwata.
My God is big, ala la controla. In me, ala fuego tatua wawa. Lesa mokolo, upotele pesendo fiandi. Ena mokolo, upotele pesendo fiandi. Every time I go shout, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Every time I go shout, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
God loves me, mwe yazikondela. He got it locked for me, monga anikomela. I feel so good, I'm with a winning team. Na kumwamba nina slot, monga pofaka sim. Big God, too big for my heavy load. Niva mwine vasiko, niva landilodi. We resist that devil, he will flee. Sanga bwele na pafupi, sanga kambe na mpui, My pressure yaka paka paka. My father just pat son, monga ndine daka. Baja satana kaniyataka. My father put son on the back, anipapa, Even when I fall, I'm precious in his eyes. Every broken heart he will heal and not despise. Worship is what we bring. Help us.
My God is big, ala la controla. In me, ala fuego tatua wawa. Lesa mokolo, upotele pesendo fiandi. Ena mokolo, upotele pesendo fiandi. Every time I go shout, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. So every time I go shout, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
He's my mathematician, my problem solver. An infraction when I'm down, he watches over my path. He leads me like a GPS. I'm in his presence when you see me less. Ooh, yes, wala kontolola. It's no secret, ala sokolola. I'll praise his name, I'll boast it. Of how he oversees my life, no body. In his eyes, I'm a fruit, anita pilila. God tropical, yosila, sanita kirida. He rose up again, another dapuisa. We never kick it, that bucket, ichipudiza. We live twice, pwela kono tiku batiza. Even when I'm wrong, unlike Barcelona, he still has mercy. And he does protect me. Oh yes.
My God is big, ala la controla. In me, ala fuego tatua wawa. Lesa mokolo, upotele pesendo fiandi. Ena mokolo, upotele pesendo fiandi. Every time I go shout, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. So every time I go shout, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Wisama wokalisa, inatale kalisa. Vila bonse basuna, ene fechina meka. So no ve, wisaka mana. So no ve.
Just lift your hands to the Lord right now. Shataya Kadade. I will give you the best of me. I will give you my whole heart. I will give you the best of me, 'cause you deserve it all. I will give you the best of me. I will give you my whole heart. I will give you the best of me, 'cause you deserve it all. Na
Prince Mikel. Come on, my sister Kangwa. Let's worship together. Hallelujah.
Wamene niziwa, wamene anichosa, si nizamusia. Wamene niziwa, wamene anichosa, si nizamusia.
Kwa tali mpaka